Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we've got another walkthrough video for you today. Today we've got SeaWorld Orlando in Orlando, Florida, and all that steel you see in front of us. We will get to all that great stuff later on. SeaWorld Orlando naturally has also a bunch of sea creatures you can see throughout the park, such as sharks, dolphins, sea lions, and all that other great stuff. We will get to all of that later on in this video. Hopefully by the end of this video as well, you'll have an understanding of where everything is, as well as the entrances to the rides, what this great park has to offer, and much more. Here's security checkpoint. Let's pass through there and we will pick it back up on the other side. When you get past security, you're gonna have a little gift shop here on right here on your right. Next to that, you're going to have the self-ticketing service. That's where you can print out your tickets that you may have already purchased if you didn't want to go to the ticket windows. Back there, tucked away, is a set of bathrooms. So if you want to use the restroom before you get into the park, you can do so there. There are your ticket windows, and then the park entrance will be on the other side of the ticket windows. As you can see, there is a massive line of people waiting to get in. This was filmed on July 25th, 2024. If you are a VIP or a Platinum Pass member, they do have a separate entrance for you. That'll be just to our left. We just walked by it. But if you do not have that, then you will have to wait in this massive line and get through the entrance this way. So here's the entrance. Here's where you scan your tickets to get in. Let's pass through and begin our walkthrough. And as you'll see, the sound will need to be muffled a little bit throughout this video, as they do play some music throughout the park, and I don't want to risk the video being copyright striked by YouTube. On the right here, you have Adventure Photo. This is where you can get your on-ride photos you may have had throughout the day. Next to that is the SeaWorld store. That's pretty much the main gift shop in the park. You have a bunch of SeaWorld branded merchandise. On the left next to you is the pond, and you have the SeaWorld light tower out there as well. That building in front of us is guest relations. You can pick up your wrap sheets, like if you have accessibility needs. You can pick up the the park's accessibility program right there at guest services. From here, we have two ways to go. If you go on to the right, or you can go to the left. If you go to the right, that can take you to rides like Mako, Pipeline, as well as Icebreaker and Infinity Falls. But we are going to go straight ahead and then to the left, and we're going to head towards Manta, which is that big blue roller coaster you see in front of us. SeaWorld, as you see, is celebrating its 60th anniversary. That was celebrated last year. Again, the park opened in 1973, so they celebrated their 60th anniversary last year in 2023. Manta is a B&M flying coaster. So for those of you who are familiar with those kinds of rides, you are in the flying position for the entire ride. It is a very intense ride, a ride where you experience a lot of positive G-forces on your body. Feels like you can get glued to your seat. So it is definitely not a ride for everybody, but I, in particular, love rides like that. And I mentioned outside, there are a bunch of animal exhibits. This is one of them. There's your flamingo exhibit. Definitely a lot smaller than the one at Busch Gardens, Tampa, but there are flamingos here. A little bit more on Manta. This ride, Manta, opened in 2009. This was one of the rides that really started to put SeaWorld Orlando on the map in terms of rides, because for the longest time, they weren't really known for rides. They were known for their animals. They added rides like Journey to Atlantis in 1998, and then Kraken opened in 2000, and that was pretty much it. They went a good 6 years without any other coasters. They would eventually add Super Grover's Boxcar Derby in 2006, Manta in 2009, and other rides would follow later on. this little section here, you've just got some gift shops. There's a Build-A-Bear workshop for any young kids who want to build their own little stuffed teddy bear. They can do this so there. The entrance to Manta would have been on the right had we not turned left down this pathway we just went down. And there goes Manta. Again, I have to reiterate, that ride is a fairly intense experience. So if you're someone that is not really into that kind of stuff, that ride may not be for you. Someone like me, I love that kind of stuff, so I like Manta because of it being intense. But others may not like it so much. So if you're not someone that's very into intense rides, I'd say definitely skip it if you're not going to be able to handle it. Back here, you got Captain Pete's, which is where you can find some hot dogs. Stingray Lagoon is a stingray touch tank, so you can pet some stingrays. And then this area back here, which is actually an area I just discovered today, because I took a look at a map of the park, because I wanted to get an idea of how I wanted to do this walkthrough. I actually just discovered this area on that same map that I was looking at. So I was like, well, I could take them down here and show you guys what this area looks like, because I personally have never been down this area myself. So let's explore it together. We'll go down these stairs here. That pathway on the right, if you didn't want to go down the stairs, that takes you basically just to the left of the Dolphin Stadium, which is where you can see some dolphin shows. But if you go down here, you're going to have a little pool for dolphins. There are some dolphins inside of there. So let's go around this building here, and I'll show you what the rest of this area looks like. Again, there aren't really many rides back here. As a matter of fact, there isn't any rides back here. It's basically just a whole area devoted to dolphins. There's also a little area tucked back here devoted to manatees, as well as sea turtles. So, again, not very many rides, but you do have a few animal exhibits back here. And it's very peaceful. As you can tell, it's very peaceful right now, and not very many music is blasting, which I do appreciate that. There's Manta there in the background. So I was talking about earlier how this park wasn't really known for its rides. Again, they added Journey to Atlantis in 1998. They then opened Kraken in 2000. And that was really it. They went 6 years without adding a new coaster. And then they would add Super Grover's Boxcar Derby, which is a little kid coaster in the Sesame Street area, in 2006. They would then add Manta in 2009. But it would really be after the turn of the decade to 2010 when they would really start adding some rides. There's an area we can pick up some photos. In 2016 is when they would add their probably biggest investment they've had for a while. That is when they introduced Mako, which is the park's B&M hypercoaster, currently my favorite ride in the park. And then for the last 3 years, they've been really going crazy. The last 3 years in a row, we have seen the debut of 3 new roller coasters. In 2022, we saw the opening of Icebreaker. In 2023, we saw Pipeline. There's, real quickly, a dolphin underwater viewing. And then earlier this month, again, this was filmed in July. Earlier this month in 2024, they introduced Penguin Trek. There's an entrance to the Dolphin Stadium. They have 3 different entrances. And if we took that pathway going straight ahead, that would take us back towards the Stingray Lagoon, as well as back towards Manta, and then the front entrance. So let's go this way. They also added Infinity Falls in 2018, which currently holds the record for the largest drop on a river raft ride. So for the last 6 or so years, SeaWorld Orlando has seen 4 new additions, and they're all pretty large additions, if I must say. It is pretty impressive how quickly this park has been expanding has been expanding like crazy, and it's pretty cool to see. This area back here is where you're going to find some manatees. There they are. And now down here is where you're going to find an area for sea turtles. You can see the signs above our head. Just a bunch of sea turtle stats. So if you keep going down this way and down this ramp here, that will take you to an area devoted to sea turtles, which of course is then a dead end unless you want to go down that area, down into that area. We're not going to go down there in this video, but if you yourself want to go down there, that's where you can go. But we're now gonna turn back and head out of this section. Again, this is a dead end, so once you are done here, unless you want to go through the sea turtle area, you will have to turn back and head out the same way you came. So where we are at now, if you took the pathway on the right, that would take you back towards the dolphin area, take you back towards the stingray lagoon, and take you back towards Manta, and then the front entrance. So we are not going to go down that way because we just came from there. So let's head to the left, and we will head towards our next section of the park. Being in Orlando and being surrounded by other competitive parks like Disney and Universal, it really kicked SeaWorld in the butt to really add additions that would get people to want to come into their doors. And it really didn't start until 1998 and 2000 when they added their first two rides. But they've been rapidly expanding ever since, and they pretty much had to, because otherwise the other two parks would eat them alive and take all their attendance. And so even though most people come down to Orlando for Disney World and Universal, it is nice to see that people will also take the time to now stop at SeaWorld just simply because of the investment they've been pouring into this place. It is currently my favorite SeaWorld park in the United States. I do like roller coasters. I am a thrill seeker myself, so a place like this is really appealing to me. And a couple of those rides we'll find in this next section. The first one is going to be Journey to Atlantis. This is the ride we see in front of us. It is built by Mako Rides. It is one of 3 in the country. You have the one here, you have one at SeaWorld San Antonio in Texas, and as well as the one at SeaWorld San Diego in California. There you can see one of the boats going up one of the lift hills for Journey to Atlantis. Unfortunately, it does look like that boat was empty, so that leads me to believe that at the time of this recording, the ride is currently down, which is a little unfortunate. Which means we won't be able to see any of the boats going down the first drop and seeing the big splash, which is a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. This line of people you see in front of us, this is another entrance into the Dolphin Stadium. There you can see the stadium a little bit there straight ahead. There's a sign right there with all the times put on there. So if you wanted to plan accordingly and go see any of the shows, they do have times out front for your convenience if you wanted to go see a show. And now, once again, we're going to have another little split off here. If you went down the pathway on the right, if you guys remember when we were over by Manta and before we turned off to the left to go to the Stingray Lagoon, if we kept going straight past the Stingray area, that's the same pathway that this is right here that we're looking at. So basically, over by Manta. That's one end of the pathway, and now we're on the other end. So again, had we not turned left and gone down towards the Stingray area, it would take us back towards this area, back by Drain Atlantis and the Kraken. There's another set of bathrooms. But yeah, all you got back here is basically just Drain Atlantis and Kraken. There's one more look at Drain Atlantis and the big drop that you'll go down when you go on the ride. Again, at this time, it looks like it is experiencing a delay in operation, so unfortunately, we will not be able to see any boats go down that drop. And judging again by this line of people waiting outside the entrance, so there's the front entrance, and it is unfortunately closed off because it is experiencing a delay, which is again a little unfortunate, but that's just how it goes sometimes. There is the locker location for Drain to Atlantis. And now over here is where you'll find Kraken. Kraken is a B&M floorless coaster, so unlike rides like Kumba at Busch Gardens Tampa or Incredible Hulk coaster at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure, this one does not have a floor underneath your feet. Your feet are dangling throughout the ride. This ride opened in 2000, so as of 2024, it is 24 years old. So it is a fairly old attraction. And you're just going to pass underneath this awesome entrance sign, and right immediately on the right, you're going to have the ride's entrance. If you're a quick queue pass holder, or you have a disability sheet, you'll just continue straight ahead. There's one look at the lift hill. It is sporting a new paint job. When it originally opened, it had a light blue track and tan support color scheme. It now has a bright green track and a darker blue support color scheme. And against the bright blue skies and the sun shining on it, the green track looks very nice. So I do appreciate that new paint job. That is another ride that has a locker location. So real quickly on the lockers, depending on the time you go, they may or may not be enforcing the locker policy. Sometimes they'll have someone out at the front of the out the front of the ride enforcing the locker policies, and sometimes they won't have someone down there. So I guess it's just kind of luck of the draw whether you'll have to put a bag in a locker or not. So now we are going to head into the newly reopened Antarctica section. This area was down or unavailable for the longest time because they were in the process of adding their newest roller coaster they just added this year. There's Glacial Collections, a little gift shop here in the Antarctica section. But the main reason you're going to want to come to this section is for Penguin Trek. Penguin Trek is a B&M family coaster, and the entrance to the ride will be right here on the left. You can see the entrance sign. The entrance is right there on the right between the two ice sculptures there, or the ice work. And if you did not want to go on the ride, you just want to see the penguin exhibit, the entrance to the exhibit was right there on the left next to the entrance. And as you can see, it's got a 90-minute wait. There's the entrance one more. So that means that this ride is very, very popular with the families, and that's exactly what they needed. Expedition Cafe is kind of like an indoor food court. It has pizza, chicken tenders, as well as some Asian options in there. So a few options in there for you. There's another look at the queue line. But yes, Penguin Trek filled in a gap that SeaWorld was missing, and that they didn't really have a ride that was meant for families. They had, Supergover's Boxcar Derby, which is it's a kiddie coaster, and then Icebreaker was supposed to be a family-oriented ride, but they then realized that the ride was a little too intense, so they kind of changed it around. They gave Icebreaker a 54-inch height requirement, and then they reduced it back down to where now kids who are 48 inches can ride Icebreaker, but they have to ride it with an adult. So it still isn't really a true family ride. Penguin Trek now is a true family coaster that the park desperately needed. It has a height requirement of 42 inches, so it's very family friendly, and really is proving right now with a 90-minute wait that families do very much enjoy this attraction. I've had the pleasure of riding it a couple of times before doing this walkthrough, and it is a very, very fun attraction. Again, not anything too intense. Don't go in expecting what you usually expect from a ride, like we usually see from B&M. They are obviously known for doing rides like Kraken, which you can see going in the background, Mako and Manta. So they're usually known for doing high thrill attractions. But obviously this one is a little bit toned down for the young ones. So don't go into Penguin Trek expecting anything too thrilling, because it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a family coaster, and that's perfectly fine. There you can see Kraken going in the background. And you saw another lift hill in the background. We'll get to that ride later on. And in this little section here, you have an area devoted to sea lions. There's a pool here where you can see sea lion friends. There's one sea lion friend swimming right there. I believe they do have an opportunity for you to feed sea lions as well, which is naturally going to be an upcharge. But if you're interested in that, you can find that back here. Next to us on the left is going to be the stadium, where you can see a sea lion show. There is a train for Penguin Trek going back into the station. And there's the exit to the stadium. One of the cool things about Penguin Trek and how they built it is that when you're walking on this pathway, as you can see, you get right up and close to the final brake run. So if you're with a family and you have some of your family members go on the ride, you can stand on that pathway and wave to them as they come back into the station, which I think is pretty cool. If you guys visited SeaWorld Orlando during the time that Penguin Trek was being built, then you'll know how much of a pain it was. This pathway that goes through the Antarctica section was closed off. You couldn't use it. So if you wanted to get back towards Kraken and journey to Atlantis, you would have to basically walk all the way around, walk around the construction site, go way back towards Manta and the Dolphin Stadium, and then you would take a right on that pathway that goes between the journey to Atlantis area and then back towards Manta. So you take this pathway, go all the way around, walk down all the way to the end, past Manta, and then take a right, walking around Penguin Trek. That's how you had to get to Journey to Atlantis and Kraken while Penguin Trek was being built. So needless to say, it is very much appreciated to have that pathway back that goes through the Antarctica section. And we're just going to continue on down this way. As you can see, it is very, very busy. Again, this was filmed on July 25th, 2024. So kind of in the heart of summer. So a lot of people are out here during this time of the year. On the left here, this pathway that leads you up into the Sea Lion Stadium. So if you want to go see a sea lion show, you just take that pathway on the left. And now we are coming up to yet another split off here. You're going to have an option to go left or right once more. If you were to take the pathway on the right, so that pathway leading to the right, this could take you back towards the front of the park. This can also take you over to Manta. It can also take you to Pipeline as well. So if you wanted to go that way, you can. Again, it takes you back towards the front of the park. If you want to get over, if you also want to get back towards Pipeline and Manta, you could take that way. Right in front of you is going to be the park's Sky Tower. Stands 300 feet high. And the entrance to the Sky Tower, I'll show you in just a bit. I'll zoom in to where you can see kind of like where the entrance is. That little pathway that's leading to the left there, on the right side of the building, that's the pathway you'll take to get towards the Sky Tower. The Sky Tower is, again, 300 feet high. Unfortunately, if you are not a silver, gold, or platinum annual pass holder, it is a $5 upcharge, which is a little unfortunate. But if you do decide you want to go up in the Sky Tower, it gives you great views of the surrounding area. You can see Universal. I think you probably see Disney from there too. Maybe on a clear day, you could definitely see it. Gives you great views of the whole park, the surrounding area. Yeah, definitely a neat experience. They have like facts that they share with you throughout the ride experience, and it's nice and air conditioned as well. So a nice way to escape the heat for a little bit. But we are now going to be heading into our next section, which is going to be devoted to sharks. If you go on to the left, the pathway that continues to the left, that will take you into the shark encounter, which is basically where you'll be on like a moving conveyor belt, and around you you'll be surrounded by a very large tank with sharks swimming all around you, which is a very unique, pretty cool experience. In this section, you'll also find Shark's Underwater Grill, which is a nice sit-down restaurant. And a restaurant you don't usually find in an amusement park like this. This is a restaurant you need to find at like a Disney or Universal park. You just go through there, and that'll be the entrance to the restaurant. It does require a reservation, so depending on how busy it is, you may be able to get in sooner, or if it's busy, you may be having to wait a little bit longer. But a very unique restaurant, and I definitely recommend checking out. I've had the opportunity of eating there twice, and I've liked it both times. Now, the main reason, or at least in my opinion, the main reason you'll want to come to this section is going to be for this thing right here. This is Mako. This is the park's B&M hyper coaster that they added in 2016. So as of 2024, it is 8 years old. But do not let the age fool you. You would think, oh, it's 8 years old, it's probably getting rough. No, not at all. Mako is probably one of the smoothest rides I've ever been on. It is glass smooth. And I hear it coming, so why don't we pause for a little bit and watch it go through its final moments. There's the entrance to Mako. Next to it on the left will be the lockers. Next to that will be the gift shop. That's also the exit to Mako. But Mako is such a great ride. I could stand there and talk to you all day about how awesome that ride is. Again, it's a hyper coaster, so it stands right around 200 feet. Well over 4,000 feet of track. And then, again, since it's such a smooth and graceful ride, I would say that it would be a good first bigger coaster for kids. Someone who's trying to work their way in coasters or trying to break their fear of roller coasters, I would definitely say that Mako wouldn't be a bad option in terms of, like, again, making it their first major roller coaster. That's definitely a great option. Again, very graceful, very smooth, not super aggressive, and so it's a perfect ride. In my opinion, it's a perfect ride for everybody. But we are now going to move away from Mako and head on to our next section of the park. There's a little Dippin' Dots stand right there. Not a whole lot going on between Mako and our next area, which is where you'll find Infinity Falls. So hopefully maybe in the future they can add something there that brings a little more life to it. But for now, we're going to talk about our next attraction that's coming up. This is where you'll find Infinity Falls. And again, as of now, Infinity Falls has the record for the largest drop on a river raft ride. You can see that drop in the background. We'll get up and close, get a bit closer to it in a little bit. Again, another great way to cool off if you happen to come down during the hot Florida summers. This is an awesome way to cool off in the heat of Florida. And to get over to the entrance, you'll just make a trek across this bridge. And the entrance to the ride will be on the left. Just be careful if you're on this bridge. Water does splash up on here, making it kind of slippery. And actually, I'm about to go on a drop, so let's watch it. And there you can see, it's not a huge splash, but water does splash up onto the pathway, so if you're coming across the bridge, just be careful. Don't slip and fall. There's the entrance to Infinity Falls, and now back here is going to be Waterway Grill. They serve, like, I think, sandwiches inside there. And to the left of that, next to the restaurant, will be the exit for Infinity Falls. And that's basically all that's back here. And it is a dead end, so you have to backtrack, go back across the bridge, and we'll continue on with the walkthrough. And all that's back there is the ride's entrance, exit, and then that Waterway Grill. If you're a pass member, the pass member lounge is inside that restaurant. So if that interests you, you can go to the lounge inside of that restaurant there. So now let's head this way. If we were to go down on the pathway onto the right again, that would take us back towards Mako. So we're gonna head down this way, continue our walkthrough. And in this next section of the park, you're going to find a few things. You're going to find the Sesame Street area, you're going to find the Orca encounter, and you'll also find Icebreaker. And it's basically just one giant circle of how you want to do this. Where we are right now is basically one end. So if you go to the left, that takes you in the Sesame Street area. If you took this pathway to the right, this can take you over to Icebreaker. For this walkthrough, we're going to go to the left and go through this way. But yeah, if you took this pathway, it would take you over to Icebreaker, and it can also take you to the boardwalk pathway that goes right through the pond or lake that goes through the center of the park, and that can also take you back towards the front of the park. But again, we're gonna head to the left here. There's Dockside Pizza. There's a ramp here on the right, gets you up into the stadium for the Orca encounter. Next to the Dockside Pizza is going to be a pretzel kitchen where you have a bunch of pretzel options like cinnamon pretzels, regular pretzels, and I'm sure they have like other pretzel options in there as well. Kind of reminiscent of the Twisted Tales place at Busch Gardens, Tampa. There's another look at the stadium for the Orca encounter. And now we will be heading into the Sesame Street area. Just like at Busch Gardens, they have one of these areas here, and that's because SeaWorld parks have the licensing for the Sesame Street characters. So each park has an area devoted to the Sesame Street characters. On the left, here's a little carousel. It's basically just one giant playground for kids. You have a bunch of rides spread throughout. There's one more look at the carousel. There's a little snack stand right here. And if you are a family with young kids, if you're a family with young kids, you are probably going to be spending most of your time at SeaWorld in this area. Back there, you have a set of bathrooms. That's the building on the left. Next to that on the right is First Aid. So if you're someone that needs medical attention, there's a first aid location back there if you're in the Sesame Street area. And again, this is just one giant area devoted to the Sesame Street characters, one giant area for kids. Again, if you're a family with young children, this is where you're going to be spending probably most of your time at when you come to SeaWorld Orlando. For my coaster enthusiasts out there looking for coaster credits, there is one roller coaster back here, and you're just going to go down this pathway between these trucks and this one other ride here on our left. You go down this pathway, then turn right. You can see the coaster actually going straight ahead there. And come down this pathway, turn right, and there you'll have it. This is Super Grover's Boxcar Derby. This is the coaster that opened after a 6-year drought of no coasters in 2006. And it's basically, well, a kid ride. It's a roller coaster for little kids. But again, for anyone out there counting coaster credits, this is one of them. And the entrance to the ride will be just around the corner, right here. There's the entrance to Super Grover's Boxcar Derby. On the right, it's going to be a little splash pad for kids where they can cool off in the hot Florida heat. And to wrap this area up, you just have a couple other rides spread throughout. There's one there, right across this little street here. And they have one more little thing that they put on for this area. Every so often, I'm not exactly sure how often they do it, there'll be a parade that comes through, and they go on this very street that we are walking on. They basically start at one end of the area, go to the other. They'll start on that end, go down the street a little bit, and then they exit off at one of the other ends down there. Not exactly sure how often they run that parade, but it is there if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Do be aware, though, that they do not allow you to obviously cross the street if the parade is going on. So if you're on the side of Super Grover's Boxcar Derby and you want to try and get out and a parade is coming through, you may be temporarily trapped in there until a parade passes. So just keep that in mind if you go into that area. And you got some more food stands there on the left. There's a little picnic area where you can sit down and eat. And this next section we're heading into is where you're going to find Icebreaker. You're going to have some other food options. Right in front of us, that blue building is Altitude Burger. They obviously sell burgers in there. I personally have not had any of the burgers there, so I can't say how good or bad they may be, but eventually I will try it out. And this whole area here is just a big old rest area. You have the Glacier Bar, so if you want more of an adult beverage, you can get one there. There's Coke freestyle machines over there where you can refill your souvenir bottles, get some water, hydrate, and stuff like that. There's one more look at the Altitude Burger place. And now this pathway we're heading down here is going to eventually turn into a dead end. But I'm going to take it down here anyway because it gives you great views of Icebreaker. On the left here is a gift shop. And that building with the light blue top, that is a bathroom that they have kind of tucked away here in this section. You can see Icebreaker there on the right. And then as you can see at the end of this pathway, it is unfortunately blocked off. We cannot go any further than this point. Hopefully eventually they will have a pathway that gets you over to Pipeline, because that's what's supposed to be. This pathway would take you over to Pipeline. But unfortunately, we cannot use it at this moment. I do remember that walking on this pathway when Pipeline, I think, first opened. You were at one point able to use it, but now they don't have it anymore. So hopefully eventually they will make it a separate pathway that takes you around the stadium, because there's a stadium back there that kind of takes you, the pathway takes you up into. So maybe they'll eventually make like a separate pathway that takes you around the stadium rather than takes you up into it. But as far as when that will happen, I'm not sure. But more on Icebreaker. Icebreaker, if you're familiar with rides like Velocicoaster at Universal Studios Islands of Adventure and Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, this is basically like a junior version of those rides. This ride would be basically, I would say this ride is basically if those two rides had a baby. That's what Icebreaker is. Icebreaker, unlike those two rides though, was built by Premier Rides. So while those rides, Velocicoaster and Pantheon, were built by Intamin, this was built by Premier Rides, right? They've done rides like the Skyrocket 2s, like Tigress at Busch Gardens Tampa. They've done the Mr. Freeze clones at Six Flags St. Louis and Six Flags over Texas. So kind of a weird choice, but you know, it works. There's the entrance to Icebreaker. Icebreaker, though, is a very fun ride. I do very much enjoy the rides on here that I get on it. It has a swing launch. So basically, you'll roll out of the station and then you go onto like almost like a transfer track kind of thing. And then that's what brings you over to the launch track. You will launch backwards, go up a little bit, fall back down, launch forward. You won't have enough initially to make it over the top hat, so you'll fall back down, launch backwards again. That will send you up into the spike. The spike stands, I think, right around 100 feet or so. I'm not exactly sure what the official height is, but it is 95 degrees, which is pretty cool. So here you can see what Icebreaker does. So went up the top hat a little bit, fell back. Let's come back up, go up the spike, fall back down again. Now we'll go into the final launch, and that's what sends you over the top hat. And there it goes. So a very fun attraction, a very cool attraction. Again, this was supposed to be an ice-breaking ride for kids. It's kind of like a play on words. It was supposed to be an ice-breaking ride for kids, but then they realized that this ride was maybe a little too intense, apparently, and they made it a 54-inch ride, but then they switched it to now, if you're between 48 and 54 inches, you can ride with an adult, which is very confusing to me, considering you have a ride like Iron Gwazi, which is down the road at Busch Gardens Tampa, about an hour away, which is much more intense, a much more aggressive ride, but yet kids who are 48 inches can ride that alone perfectly fine. So just a little confusing as to how the height restrictions are set. It's like they can ride Iron Gwazi, which is a much more aggressive ride, but they cannot ride Icebreaker. So just a little interesting that they went that route. But now, this pathway we are heading on, or we are walking on right now, if you remember, we were back by Infinity Falls. This is basically the other end of the pathway. Had we not turned left and gone towards Sesame Street, this would be the pathway that takes you down to Icebreaker instead. So we're walking on basically the other end of that pathway. But we'll go down this way and take you across the boardwalk that again goes right through the lake that is in the center of SeaWorld. And this for me is my favorite section of the park, or favorite area of the park, because it just gives you great views of the whole park. You have water surrounding you, and you get to have, again, great views of all the rides, everything that SeaWorld has to offer. Like there's Icebreaker, you have Pipeline right there in front of you, Manta you can see in the background, Kraken and Mako, and you can kind of barely see Penguin Trek there right above the tree line. So really cool. You got the Sky Tower there. And so gives you an idea of just how much this park has to offer and how large it kind of is. And I say kind of large because even though it may look large, it actually doesn't take that long to really get around this park. SeaWorld Orlando as a whole, again, it looks large, but it really does not take that long to get through everything and get around the park. It is pretty simple to get through this place, pretty quickly, like maybe like an hour, sometimes like an hour or two. Especially if you're only coming here for one specific thing. Like if you're coming here for just the roller coasters, well, they only have 8 of them, and if you get through them pretty quickly, you can be out of here in a short period of time. So if you wanted to make this at least like at least a half a day visit or maybe a full day visit, you can maybe split time between rides and then split time between doing shows. Like we do some rides and then go do some shows and stuff like that, just to make the day a little bit longer. Otherwise, again, if you are coming here for one specific thing, it may not take you as long as you may initially think. But now we're going to talk about our next attraction, and one of the newest attractions they had. This is the ride they added in 2023. This right here is Pipeline. Pipeline is the first of its kind. It is a B&M surf coaster, and when it was announced, everyone was like, "What in the world is a surf coaster?" And we found out it's basically a revitalized version of their old stand-up model. And well, some people had mixed emotions. They're like, why would they bring back a stand-up coaster when it was a model that wasn't really received all that well initially? Well, the one difference you'll find with this ride is that the seats, they have a little bounce to them, so you're kind of mimicking the movement of surfing, and it is a pretty unique attraction. It is a very unique attraction, especially again for SeaWorld when they are surrounded by parks like Universal and Disney, and they get tons of attendance. They needed to have some kind of edge, and Pipeline was kind of that edge for them. It gives them a very unique experience that you don't really find anywhere else here in Orlando and as well as the U.S. So Pipeline is a pretty unique attraction in that sense. I was debating on whether I wanted to take you down by Pipeline, but I figured if you wanted, I could just zoom in on the area. You can get an idea of what is down there. All you got down there is basically just the rides, entrance, exit, gift shop, and that's basically it. Again, until they build that pathway that can take you from Pipeline over to Icebreaker, it is a dead end down there as well. But if you wanted to get down the Pipeline, you would take this pathway on the left, going to the left of this bar in front of us. So you go down that pathway there, that takes you to Pipeline. And if you're ever unsure on where you want to go, they do have these signs placed throughout the park. We saw one earlier when we were about the Sky Tower. So they do have plenty of signs pointing you in the direction of where you want to go. Here's a look at the bar. This is right next to the Seafire Grill, which I've had the pleasure of eating at a few times. Basically just sells a bunch of chicken options, like chicken tenders, chicken sandwiches, stuff like that. And where we are right now, if you remember, we were back by the Sky Tower. That was one end of this pathway, and right now we're on the other end. Ooh. No intense moment there. Anyway, if you remember, we were back by the Sky Tower. That was one end of the pathway, and now we're on the other end. So if we took that pathway on the right, that would take us back towards the Sky Tower, take us back towards Mako. It could also take you towards taking a Penguin Trek and Kraken as well. But we're gonna head this way, and we're gonna start making our way back towards the front of the park. Next to the Seafire Grill on the right is going to be another set of bathrooms. And when you see this waterfront sign attached to these stone walls here, or stone pillars, that means you're heading back towards the front of the park. Which of course then means our walkthrough is coming to a close. You're going to have one more little feature here on the right. This is the dolphin nursery.
Even though
I apologize in advance if you do hear speaking in this video, by the way. Just kind of like with the Busch Gardens one. I was kind of rehearsing what I'd potentially say throughout the video. So if you hear any talking throughout it, that's probably why. There's Eddie's ice cream parlor. There's another set of bathrooms right there before you get back to the front. There's another Coaster Coffee, so that would be the main Coaster Coffee location. The other one we saw was just a little stand. And there's the SeaWorld store that we saw in the beginning. And there's guest services. Got the SeaWorld Rescue Store right next to us. They're on the right. Which means we are now back to where we started. So I hope that you guys now have an understanding of where everything is. I hope this video helped you out. Again, SeaWorld Orlando as a whole is not very hard to get around. It is a full loop for the most part. Doesn't have any... they have a couple like dead ends, but none that are really too difficult to deal with. For the most part, SeaWorld Orlando does follow a nice fluid circle around the park, which is always nice. But I hope this video helped you out. And please, if you're in the Orlando area and you're looking for parks to visit, please now look past SeaWorld. I know people come down here for Disney and Universal, but SeaWorld really is not one you want to miss, especially for someone like me who love good thrills and roller coasters. This park again has 8 of them, and they really do have some great rides like Mako, Manta, Kraken. Those 3 alone, in my opinion, are worth the visit alone. So, thank you for tuning in this video. I hope it helped you out. Please share it with anyone who would benefit from it, and take care.